And there's this other episode with this French guy who is a startup founder.
Well, nice.
Like he started a few agencies that he exits, and like he exited 2 agencies that he founded in Malaysia.
Okay.
Super interesting. He talks about startup scene in Malaysia.
That's pretty cool.
Which is an interesting country.
Yeah.
I don't know much about this country, but super dynamic.
Yeah.
About, startup world, startup founders. Also, he became a dad, so he said it's pretty uncommon to hear a father talking about entrepreneurship and being a father. Usually it's mothers who talk about it. And he was like, at some point I was like, I could continue in this direction and be super successful and famous startup founder and don't know my kids. Or just shuffle things around and see what I want to prioritize, but still be successful, Interesting.
I think that's a question people have to, not even on start, like just what kind of parents you want to be. And especially in Hong Kong, people are hyper-focused on careers. It's like, okay.
Like, what do you want to prioritize?
Yeah, what do you want to prioritize? And then what do you, on your, I'm going to be dark, right? On your deathbed, no one's like, oh, I made X amount of money.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
He was saying, basically, when I'll be dead, do I want people to remember me as a good manager and good founder, or do I want my kid to just, remember me as a great father? Yeah. So that's the big question, right?
It's true. My grandfather was an entrepreneur, and he was quite successful back home, and he built up a lot of businesses. He grew up quite poor, and he did quite well in Hawaii. And then again, growing up, you're kind of in the shadow of that. You're like, oh my God, wow. And then at the end of his life, he just called for a family. My grandma died when he was calling out for at the end. I was thinking okay, that's kind of. You know what? That's you think about things, money. I mean, the bags go out of fashion, the clothes changes. It's that's the only thing that really.
Yeah, but when you start.
Oh, for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Of course, you're I want to make some money and all that. But after a while, you just start questioning what you really value and what you want.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's pretty difficult when you have your business. You're I want to stabilize more before thinking about having kids.
Yeah.
Which is. I mean, totally understandable because you don't want to bring kid into chaos. But also, when is it the right time? Because you're but maybe I could make it a bit more stable. Yeah. But maybe just now would be the good time.
I know
it's difficult
exactly what you mean.
To know when is the good time. Yeah. Because there's never a good time, I guess.
No, you're right. And I think the thing is when you have your own business, the goalposts move every day, right? So I think, personally, when we get our first client, our bigger client, then things are more stable. But it's okay, well, we can't just have one big client. We need 5 big clients. And then it's well, we're making X. Well, we need to make more. So it's you just keep moving the goalposts and you keep saying okay, well, I'll do this one thing. And then it's oh no, and that's kind of the trap. And
But that's also healthy.
It's healthy. Yeah.
I mean, you have more objectives to reach, and you just don't want to settle with this. And
for sure.
You want to grow, but.
Well, it is your kid. That's what I tell everyone. When I talk to my friends, in finance still and everything else, they're oh, I'm working too hard, and the hours are really bad, but it's they're oh, I just want to get, I don't want to work to this level, so can I just relax a bit, and they're oh, but it's different with you. So I mean, even when I'm not working, I mean, you're the same way, right? You're away from the business, you're still thinking about it. You're never not thinking about it. I mean, literally, I'm doing a great thing. I'm at family dinner. It's beautiful, my wife and me are celebrating her birthday. It's just I'm in the back of my mind. I'm okay, well, I need to talk to this person. Oh, this wasn't going that well today. And, I need to fix
me,
that.
It's exciting. I mean,
I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Founder's life.
Podcast. Yes, let's go. This could be in the outtakes or something.
Bonus.
The Patreon. You need to start Patreon.
Yeah, I know. We can talk about that maybe later.
For sure.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Asian Business Owners. This episode is in partnership with Garage Society, a flexible workspace with 3 locations in Hong Kong, in Wan Chai, where we are now, also in Causeway Bay and Sheung Wan, And so thank you, Garage Society. And if you're looking for a place to work from, get a free day pass by filling the short form in description. So today's episode is about data, not as a buzzword, but as a resource, let's say. And today's guest is a data expert. Can I say that? He has worked inside financial institutions, Web3 venture capital, and now builds data tools for companies. I know it's pretty broad, but I will let you introduce yourself in more details. In this episode, we're going to talk about how data can help founders make better decisions, how Web3 and AI promised clarity, but can also create more confusion, and what happens when decisions are built on data that looks solid. How much can we rely on it? Hi, Tamir.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here. And yeah, this is a great location. Thank you, Garage Society, for hosting us.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, yeah, what you do is pretty technical. So please, listeners, stay here. We're going to explain everything simply.
Yes.
So can you tell us more about what you do, about your company?
Yeah. So our company is called Preferences AI, and the way I like to explain in a very simple way is we help companies, entrepreneurs, just anyone, understand their customers better and interact with them more simply. And we do that through AI tools to basically make it a lot simpler and easier, more convenient.
So I guess many founders who are listening to us, they use data to make decisions, right? Because you can't just be like, I feel this is the right direction. You need to make data-informed decisions.
Yes.
So I guess in general, people think data is objective, it's reliable. This is why we trust it to make decisions for, to grow our business in the right direction. So from your experience inside finance and tech and data and everything, do you think data can come with bias? Or incentives, or even blind spots?
Yeah, I think, so it's a really good question. And I think I want to break it down into kind of 2 points, right? One is how companies or individuals are using data to make better decisions. And the second one is the bias and the potential blind spots and basically errors people have, right? So if we look at it from just, companies and individuals using data to make better decisions, as an outsider, you'd be like, okay, everyone's using data. Everyone's basically making decisions with that. Yeah. And actually, the sad or almost surprising reality is that's actually not the case. And you'd be surprised by large financial institutions, listed companies, on the stock exchange, multinational organizations. Multinational organizations are a lot more robust, but local enterprises here in Hong Kong, in the US, in Europe, and even founders in general, they're actually not really making decisions based on data. A lot of people are making decisions based on their gut.
Wow.
Yeah. So they make a decision and they think they're being data oriented, meaning they read a report or they see some kind of news and they see some kind of data point. And we can use data very broadly, right? I read an article, I see a statistic online, I see something, and I'm making a data decision. Or
maybe they use data to confirm their gut feeling.
Exactly. I think most people really have confirmation bias. And to be honest with a lot of people, and especially for a lot of the audience, for business owners and stuff, they have an innate feeling of what they think the company should do or build, and they find data points to kind of justify their decision. But that's not always really the case. And I think even when they do use data, right, a lot of the data, the simple question you have to ask is, how is this data collected? How is it processed? What are the potential biases? What is the person that's creating the data for me that I'm consuming? What is their incentive, right? So anecdotally, right, you might read a research report from a consulting firm. I'm not trying to insult consulting firms. My wife works at a consulting firm. They do great work. I have a lot of friends at it, but they're telling you about these trends. They're telling you about these things that are happening, right? But you can't divorce the fact that the data they're collecting is to sell you something. The data is to inform potentially a business's KPIs. They're really telling you something to push you a certain way. And even the data you're reading, you don't really know is it really from this source? Can you trust it? Can you prove it?
Yeah.
A lot of people just tell you, hey, I got this data for you, believe me. And to be honest, that's a lot of the data industry.
Yeah. So about more specifically about market research.
Yeah.
So if I'm not mistaken, you think this is kind of obsolete.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. So I think what you're challenging here is not the data itself, but it's also how, like, the illusion of certainty that it gives people.
Yeah.
So where do you see people and founders and just people using this data making the biggest mistake today when they rely on these type of data to make decisions?
Yeah. So I'm a bit hyperbolic. I think you have to be as a founder, right, to kind of get your point across. So I did some stuff. I wrote an article in this something for these organization in the UAE, where I said market research is dead, right? Everything is kind of dead. And to understand that statement, you kind of need to take a step back and kind of see how market data usually works. And how it goes is I collect a panel, I ask them, and it takes weeks sometimes to collect the information, or I find it online, which again takes quite a lot of time to find it. And I ask them questions, and the whole process usually takes about 6 to 8 weeks. And
wow.
It's quite long in the traditional sense to do a poll and do everything else. But the problem with that is it's quite long. It can be, who are the people you're actually sourcing from? What is their incentives? Why are they answering this for you? So,
how do you pick the people?
Exactly, how do you people? And then who has, an hour of time to actually answer the questions for you, right? So that is something that we sort of saw at Preferences AI, and we decided you can use survey information is very interesting, right? But a lot of the problem with survey information is, again, going back to the long lead time, the other problem is it's static, meaning I get the survey, I use it once, and then that's kind of it, right? And you don't maybe track how those people's responses changes over time. There's no real incentive, right? Because me as a data company, my job is to just get you data, and I actually don't really care the output. I just care, you paid for a service, I give you the service, and that's it.
Yeah.
And we think that is innately flawed. So what we do about that is we kind of create what we like to say a memory layer. So we use kind of market data. We learn from surveys, and we use a lot of fancy tech and everything behind it, which we can go into. But then we then train and create a digital twin of an individual. And again, jargon. What that means is I create a twin of the respondent, and I basically track how their responses change over time. And then that allows me to see, okay, today I might say I like blue. Tomorrow I say I like blue, and then 3 days from now I say I like green, and then 6 days from now I say I like yellow. Well, why did I change my response? What is there? The way the question was formed? Is it what I was asking for? Is it a blue car but I like a yellow boat? I don't know. Like, why are these changes happening? So you really can learn from them, and you can kind of train and understand. And then this is the more interesting thing of what we do is really we create these twins to create simulations. So instead of me waiting the time to collect the survey, to get feedback, you don't necessarily know who the feedback is, we can ask these twins and create simulations of potential outcomes. And then for us, we take, the survey data and from our customers, we do surveys ourselves. And we also, scrape information from different social media platforms. We can embed in their kind of browsing history. We can look at different things, and then we create these profiles of people. And then you can get your answer immediately. So instead of saying, hey, I'm going to open in this new market. What do they like? What is the potential, hook I can say, right? I can test it out, and then maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Instead, I can use this tool, understand immediately, engage with it, and see, okay, it has an 80% likelihood that, my target audience will like it. I test it out, and then I can test the projection versus the reality, and then that'll improve the model. And that's kind of what we do. And then there's the data layer on top of that, but then, there's other things we can do with that data. Like we started to build basically autonomous agents, which sounds, again, really jargony, but really means you take that memory layer and then you kind of deploy different basically AI, like KOLs, AI ways to reach out to a person, to understand and engage with them and learn in real time. And I think that's kind of why we say market research is dead. Really what you're saying is the way you're kind of going about something is kind of outdated. You can take the way people did it, twist it to use modern technology, modern tools, And it basically creates a better outcome for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So your solution is like a model, but like I'm not a tech person.
Yeah.
So what is it? It's like an AI model?
Yeah.
Is it you use that and you use the data?
Yeah.
So to do the simulations, right?
So I think the way I like to describe it is we call ourselves like a, jargon aside, right? We call ourselves like a memory layer or an AI oracle and blah, 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 right? Sounds really fancy, algorithm, but what that really means is we kind of have basically 3 levels of intelligence, right? And I think, let me just explain it more in this way. So we do something called vertical intelligence. And what that actually means is I create a replica of you, right? So I learn what you like. I learn basically how you interact. I learn from the surveys you do. I learn from your demographic type. I learn just you, right? Like I learn everything about you.
Like from what? From social media?
Could be a combination of social media. It could be a combination of survey responses that you've given to a brand that you like, the profile information that you've kind of created with them, what your buying history is, what a certain person identify as you, like the survey is the easiest way, but I create a replica of you as a person, right? And then from the vertical memory, we then create something called horizontal memory. So horizontal memory, just think of vertical as like very deep, and then horizontal is very wide, right? So what I mean by that is like I find a college-educated person in Hong Kong that went to HKU that likes anime. I find a second person that's college-educated from HKU that doesn't like anime, that likes K-pop, right? And then you can kind of, from these individuals, you can kind of create this idea of what a population type likes. And then the difference is, all of these information, all these personas, we can identify who they are based on their responses to survey questions, on interactions and interacting with them, from their buy history, from all this other ways we kind of create the replica of you. And then the horizontal is like, we find things that are similar. So And you can filter in and out. So you can be as broad as, let me find women in Hong Kong, self-identified women in Hong Kong ages 18 to 35 that are based on Hong Kong Island. So that's a very broad horizontal. But then you can shrink it as much as you want. You can say, people in Hong Kong age 18 to 35 that work in Wan Chai. People in Hong Kong that like anime, so that's what we kind of do with the horizontal memory. And then the last little bit is like the kind of the prediction. Like basically, you have all this intelligence. Like, what do you do with it, right? So then I can recommend certain. So it's a recommendation engine, and that's kind of where the dynamic intelligence comes from. So what I mean by that is, I've created this clone of you, and we can find basically non-linear, so non-obvious recommendations. So what that really means is, I've created a clone of you. You're going to buy, something for a hot pot, right? So I buy fish balls, I buy fish skin, I buy veggies, I buy meat, and then it recommends soup, right? So that's a very linear, easy way to do it, right? What I can find is that, when you get hot pot, you like yogurt. So when someone else, that comes to you that has a similar profile as you, I can recommend yogurt. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, this is not something I would naturally recommend to someone like you. And the person has a similar profile as you, purchase it. So then in the future, you can kind of learn. Or, the next person buys ice cream, and then you're like, okay, do you prefer ice cream and yogurt? The third person, and they're like, I like ice cream. So you're like, okay. The fourth person comes, I can dynamically know that, I can do ice cream. And the problem, again, with a lot of these things is like, it's kind of gatekeep it. So like Amazon does this, obviously. Amazon has a lot of money and stuff like that. But like smaller e-commerce companies, they don't have the ability to make kind of, recommendations on the fly. We see it for like startups, for other founders to basically get this intelligence, basically help them with their sales, help them with their recommendations, and basically be more accurate and give them the tools that Amazon has, that all these other companies. It's basically a way to kind of level the playing field.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's more like philosophical question.
No, I love philosophical questions.
It's just that with the data, and the models, the AI models and all this stuff, it's like they predict behaviors or desires or whatever. So in a way, I think what is a bit scary is that what do I really need or what do I really desire as a person? Because also it's the job of marketing, right? To create desire, to create needs
Yeah.
or make you think that you need to buy this thing, but actually you don't need it. So it's not new, this is the concept of
marketing.
marketing.
Entire marketing industry, exactly. Yeah.
But I guess with data, it becomes, like it's everywhere, even more than, earlier with the advertising, like from before, like the commercials on TV, that was like ancient time to me.
I mean, I'm very ancient, so it's okay. I totally got you.
So yeah, I guess it's not really a question. It's more like a comment. Like is data going to predict everything we want?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. So like, I think this is very
like
philosophical.
what's driving us then?
Yeah. So this is a really like kind of philosophical thing, but then I guess I'll answer you kind of, this is what I actually believe, right? So this is not me, this is not fluff, this is fully real, right? I think with everything, there's no, I mean, not everything, like I would say like with all of this stuff, there is a use of good or negative, right? Like depending on how you want to look at it, right? So if in the sense of good, right? Like you could say, I mean, earlier off camera, we were talking about hiking and stuff like that, right? We were talking about like where we would want to do and other things. And then, you only have so much time in the day. So there's, I might be looking for certain things. I might want to understand how to go on a certain vacation. We were talking about some place, that not many people know about. So if you want to buy tickets or you're trying to travel and then it recommends you a place you might not obviously go, then that's a way to kind of learn about, based on, me as a person, someone that likes hiking, I might like a trip or I might be targeted. I don't want to say targeted, but I might be suggested a company that does travel to say, hey, you tend to like this kind of hiking thing. And, you've done these mountains in Asia, potentially look at this place you haven't looked at. And by the way, we have a package where you can potentially save money and do that. So if you look at it from that perspective, right, like then yes, it's something that I might not have looked at and might be interested in. And instead of me following like a travel blogger or a YouTuber and stuff, I can discover it a lot better. And then, through understanding who I am as a person, it can allow me to then, reach out to that. And then from the business side, right, this is kind of what we believe, right, is like we're trying to, and this gets thrown around a lot. So I know how this is going to sound, but I do believe it, right? It's democratizing a lot of the available tech for people, right? So big tech is helping us out. So I'm not going to say poorly of big tech, but like, for smaller brands, for smaller companies, right? How do you most effectively reach out to people that, would like your product? And I assume, and I hope that a lot of the people that we've worked with and other builders and entrepreneurs out there building products that, are really great and they would want people to discover it. And that's a way for them to find out, hey, I only have $50 for ad spend. I'm not Amazon. I'm not, So how do I reach those people? And the last bit of it is like really as human agency, which is like, again, you can be bombarded with, hundreds of messages of like, okay, so Dior, right? Like I see ads on it, like there's a building in Hong Kong that says Dior on it, right? And like, I mean, I can show it to you 1,000 times. Wearing a shirt from Muji. I'm not the target demographic. And I think that's the other thing, right? Instead of this being shown to people that are actually interested in it, it's also kind of saving you from certain things. I don't have to see, things I'm not interested in. I'm seeing things I liked. And I'm interacting with things that are interesting to me. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, the model might predict something, but at the end of the day, if you believe in human agency, which again is a philosophical topic of itself, it's really like, okay, I'm the one that wants to buy, and really I am interacting with something that decides what I like. And as long as, you still have agency in the saying, I'm only going to buy what I want to buy, and the company is showing me this thing, I'll decide if this is a good deal or not a good deal. Okay.
And how do you, for your solution, Preferences AI, how do you make sure that what the information that you give to your clients is true, reliable? Or was there a moment that you realized, oh, actually, this is wrong? Probably. And why was it wrong? Like, was there anything missing? Or was it about the model that you were building that needed, more to be fixed or to be improved?
So the market research industry, right? Like just the market research industry alone, it's like about $140 billion industry. And that was kind of approximated by a VC fund called A16Z, right? And the problem is when you start to go a couple levels in deeper, how is the data being sourced? Well, like the response rates globally are kind of going down in a lot of markets, so it's harder to get information. So what you tend to have is a certain targeted of demographic of people that constantly are responding, informing the decisions for entire populations. So it's like saying, of course, sampling everything else, but you get like 1% of, quite biased people that are always responding, and then they're like, oh, this is what everybody thinks. And it's not really what everyone thinks, right? So that's kind of issue number one. And the second issue is, I'm not gonna name the company, but a lot of the pure kind of market data companies whose business is just to like give you a response. Like they're, again, as I was saying, it's an incentive play. Why are you, what do you care if the response is real or not? Well, no, I just care if you pay me for 50 responses from Indonesia, I'm gonna give you 50 responses from Indonesia. Yeah. And then if that's your only output, if that's your only incentive, then by design, you're gonna be a bit flawed because you just, and a lot of the things are very easy to, I don't wanna get nefarious, but like you can look into it. They're quite easy to bot. They're very easy to game, right? So we talk a little about Web3 is that's sort of one of the reasons why we use Web3, and we don't really, I think for some Web3 companies are really like, I'm a Web3 company, Web3, and we really don't like to talk about it that much. It's because it's just a tool, right? No one just says like, I have Gmail, right? Like, it's okay, cool, you have Gmail, nice. But it's like, it's just a tool that you use to do solutions, right? So we're able to create kind of personas or identities of these people, and we can track over time, and that's something that's really useful from the tech. So we can show you that the response was given at this time, and give you like an anonymized version of like, we can prove that the response was happening at this time. The second thing is like, what we realized pretty quickly was like the responses, what I just criticized about the industry was like, if I'm only responding to survey information, then that naturally biases my population. So it might be good in some of our clients where they're like, hey, I want to understand I'm a trade association and I want to understand my users better. So I want to project for them. That's really great. For other customers, they want to understand, what their buyers or their active users want. So you can understand a bit from that, right? But that's why you have to add other elements in to kind of enrich to make the data more interesting. You have to look at, what certain trends are, and scrape from that. And then there's different kind of tools you can use on Google that is kind of like different, because we've gotten, thank you Google for the money. But we've got information from Google, but like there's different kind of a sub tool under it that basically, I won't go too much into it, but there's things that we can see that no one else can see, right? And then there's things that like, because we're kind of agnostic on the platforms, there's stuff you can understand from Douyin or Redbook, right? Little Redbook in China. You can take all this information, kind of absorb it, and then that kind of enriches it. And then for us, we're not creating an output of one client, one report. It's really, every report we do is really teaching our model or our individual to be better. So we have to, I actually don't care to give you just 10 responses. I actually need you to give you 10 quality responses, because those 10 quality responses affect my model, which I can then use for the next respondents, right? So it's like, everything is sort of recycled and anonymized.
We keep feeding the model.
We keep feeding the model. We keep feeding the digital twin. And that kind of incentive structure, right? And I think as a person, I think of everything let's see my X-Finance showing, right? But I think of everything as incentives. Why is someone trying to do something? Why are they trying to sell something? Why are they trying to convince me? And it's like, if that's our incentive is to keep using this model, then what I feed it has to be good.
And now a little more about you as a founder. So where were you in your career when you co-founded Preferences?
Yeah.
Where were you in this? Because I said that you worked in finance before, you did a bunch of different stuff. You were born in Hawaii?
I was born in Hawaii.
So, and then you came here, you studied in the US.
Yeah, I started in the US.
So there's a lot. We talked about what you do, but not about you.
So I guess really high level of myself. I was born and raised in Hawaii. My family, as you can tell from my name, my dad's from Egypt, my mom's Chinese Hawaiian. And then I kind of started to, when I went to college, I was living in Chicago and I wanted to kind of have a more like a broad experience. I studied in China for about a year for my undergrad. And then my journey is like the most boring Hong Kong journey. I just came over and worked in finance. I was doing, financial consulting. I did financial reg, and then I found about a technology at the time about Web3, right? Blockchain technology, because this is the most boring. I hear it, right? This is going to be the most boring thing. So basically, how I found out about a blockchain is very uncool, right? So everyone's like, I read Bitcoin white paper, I ETH, and blah, blah, blah. And I thought it was all, genuinely, I thought it was all a scam. So I was doing like policy. So I was doing something called equity secondary trading and post-trade processing, right? Word salad. What does that actually mean? It means when I trade a stock, right? How does it work? I trade on an exchange, and then after I trade, like you buy and I sell, it goes to you, and then you have to process it, meaning I have to settle, like I have to pay you, it has to go from my account to your account. It's actually really an outdated, complex, and really like technical thing, right? So I did that for a while, and we were looking at the Australian Stock Exchange was doing a blockchain-based system. And I'm a bit of an iconoclast, so people were like, oh, we're gonna use blockchain to solve it. Oh, it's not gonna work, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, why isn't it gonna work? You just gave me an answer. Like, why do you think it's not gonna work? So I looked into it, and I was like, oh, the reason why you think it's not gonna work is it's gonna replace your job, right? You just, all of you become irrelevant. It makes sense. And then I did a deep dive, and then I worked at a Web3 investment company. That was quite big in Hong Kong, and we knew some people from it. And then that was like when the market kind of exploded, and then I took a break. I went back into traditional finance. So I worked at the stock exchange, and I did data. I worked in data there. So I helped to build a data lake. I helped to build, I worked on data reg. So I helped open the London office. I helped them get GDPR compliant. Did stuff with data reg in Hong Kong and Singapore and in Europe more generally. And then I always joke like, Web3 is like kind of like an ex. So you break up and you're like, I'm never going back to you. And then I just was like, oh, I kind of miss it. Like, it's cool. Like corporate's cool, but like, it's not really for me. And I always wanted to really do something entrepreneurial. So I joined a family office, and via that I did a startup called Dotted, which is like a Web3 infra, just like really high level. We just did like, we helped corporates get into Web3. So we worked with like the Monetary Authority. We worked with the Palace Museum here in Hong Kong. We worked with Honda, and we did a project with them in Japan. Globally, we sold the company. It was acquired by our largest shareholder, which was Animoca Brands. And then, we did that for a while. Afterwards, we realized, the tech you're just kind of running in circles. And then we kind of pivoted into market research, and that's kind of how we discovered it. And I met my co-founders through that. So we worked together at the family, at Dotted together. So we were together for like 4 years. And for whatever reasons, we were profitable in our subsidiary company, but then we're like, we want to introduce more of this cool tech thing, and they didn't want to put the investment in, so we're like, let's peacefully go aside. Thank you for all the support and buying us and stuff, and then that's kind of the impetus for preferences. Okay,
well, just for people who might not know what Web3 is, can you very quickly explain?
So Web3 is a term that is like the perfect jargon, I would say. Like, I realize I kept myself doing that all the time. Like,
honestly, it's very understandable, everything you explain.
So what I mean by the perfect jargon is like people don't really define it. And so like let me do a like quick picture, right? So Web 1 is like you basically can read information. So think of it like I read a newspaper on the internet. That's Web 1, right? I can read it and that's it, right? Web 2 is like social media where you can interact with it, right? So I post something on Facebook, someone comments, that's Web 2, right? Web 3 is like ownership, data ownership. That's no matter what anyone really says, there's a lot of people talking about the tech in a lot of different ways for a lot of different things. Like the spirit of Web 3 is digital ownership. And what that means is like, I do a post. Sorry, look at that thing. I do a post where I post on social, like I post on Facebook, it goes viral. They make a lot of money off it, and I might not make any money of it depending on the platform, right? Like if I post on YouTube, I might get a little bit, but the money goes to YouTube, right? And they can just decide, oh, well, actually, I don't like what you said. I'm going to delete it, and then it's gone, right?
They have ownership.
And they have ownership, right? I don't own any of this stuff. So Web3 really, the thought process and why I was attracted to it originally is it's really about you owning your own data. And that's kind of very nicely kind of gone through everything that we do, right? Like how we do like our company, like there's a lot of things with data privacy that enables to Web3. There's a lot of things with data ownership. We're exploring like basically if someone trains their digital twin, we'll pay them out for it actually in perpetuity, and we can track that, right? So it's a more equitable way to kind of do this data processing, this data analysis, because the reality is everything you do, you don't own. And that's kind of something we don't really agree with, right? If you're training our models to be better and you're helping us out, we should reward you, right? And there's a lot of things we're still working out on how to do that, right? Like in terms of like the next iteration. But we started when we were doing this, we would basically pay people for our clients and then learn from the surveys and stuff like that. So that's kind of always been the spirit of Web3. I think.
But do you think it overpromises?
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, I should be more diplomatic.
No, because so if it's about ownership, I feel like when you see like influencers on Instagram or other platforms, they're super big, they have millions of followers. I hope they have other businesses and sources of income. Otherwise, it's pretty scary, because if one day Meta decided to ban them, they have no more business, nothing, because it's the only income stream they have, for example. So even though they created all this content, it's not really theirs. You know what I mean? So it's a bit scary when you think about the big platforms.
Yeah, I mean, let's actually dive into that a bit, because this is not a political statement, right? This is not a political statement, right? But if you look at, the Russia-Ukraine war, many of the Russian influencers, I would argue, and I'm not trying to make a political statement, I would argue most of them have nothing to do with anything, right? They're just a random person making YouTube videos about maybe food they like, right? Or travel vlogs, right? But by association, they were deemed guilty, and everything they had, their income stream, everything. So it's not like a hypothetical, it's real, right? Like this can definitely happen. And again, like, in this very limited case, they didn't do anything. They just happened to be a citizen of a country, and then you're part of shit happens, right? So that does definitely happen. But going back to your original question about Web3, like, has it overpromised? Yes, 100%. And I would say the problem is, I kind of alluded to this earlier, is Web3 is like people use it as a tool, like try to find problems with a tech that exists, and I think that's why it fails. And meaning like you have a tech that can do something, and then you're like, well, I'm gonna make the Web3 of Instagram. It's like, why? Why are you gonna do that? Why is it better? Well, I'm gonna make the Web3 of TikTok. Why? Like, you're not adding anything. You're just basically using a tech which in this specific context is not as good as what exists there, and you're attaching things to it. But I think what you need to do with any solution and stuff is you can't be dogmatic. You need to be like, does this tech solve this specific problem? And for us, we like Web3 because the ZK proof, which is like a way to kind of confirm information, is superior to what you can do in like a Web2 context, right? And the ability to track a person's changes over time anonymously and kind of not necessarily hold their, what we call PII, so their personal data. I actually don't, like for us as a company, because we structure in a Web3 way, I don't hold anyone's private information. I don't hold their name, their email, their phone number. I don't hold any of that, right? So they hold it, and then they give me permission to look at it, because I will pay them an amount of money for it, and then I'll keep paying them if they keep training it, right? And I think that's a better use case for Web3 versus, I mean, to be very blunt, like, do I need to tokenize a table? Like, that's what everyone talks about, like, oh, I'm going to do real world asset tokenization, which means I'm going to get this table, I'm going to make it into tokens and people are going to trade it. Like, well, why? Do you know why people are going to trade this table? Like, what's the point? Yeah, what's the point? Like, I mean, I did NFTs too. Like, I mean, but looking back, what was the point of me owning that J thing? Like, I mean, like, let's just have to be intellectually honest. Like, it was a cool idea, but like, again, it was a scam and
experimentation.
Experimentation, yes. Let's say experimentation.
Because all these technologies are quite new, quite recent.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to the timeline of humanity.
Yeah.
So I think we're still in this exploration phase. Yeah.
It's a very diplomatic way to put it.
Yeah.
No, I like it. No, I tease, but you're 100% correct. It's really just how do you experiment, and that's really important.
And who is in control also? Yeah. That's the big question, because You were talking about Amazon, and well, I have nothing against Amazon or Google or whatever, but it's
Google,
just that they have
just teasing.
Now the most valuable resource now is data, you know, and they are the people who have the most data now about everybody.
Yeah.
So
I think,
you know,
100%. I think it's a thing to take in mind, and I think what I would say is, and kind of what we're building is like the incentive structures you put in place, and then how do you kind of balance a scale, right? And then for us, we want to make a system that we are rewarded on, right? Like obviously we're doing a business, right? But then we still reward the people training the data, the giving us their information and teaching, and like everyone is benefiting from. And I think you can create an ecosystem where people are more equitable, they have a say in it, they again own their data. And that's kind of going to the Web3, because all of my two other co-founders, like we all believe in that. We're nerds. Like we really believe that everyone should have the right to their data, they should own it. And if someone uses it, they should be rewarded as a result. And
hopefully this is the next phase that will enter.
Pay for our service. So I looked at the camera.
So in today's context, AI is everywhere. Real-time data is everywhere. So what should we pay attention to in the next 2-3 years? Not more, because it's hard to forecast anything now that everything changes so quickly. So I don't know, in the next 2-3 years, what do you think we should pay attention to? What do you think we should ignore, stop doing?
I think that I would give that answer in two ways, right? So one is like, because AI is everything, and like what you really need is, especially as a business, you need data, you need information that is kind of different than other people in some ways, right? So if I go on Google and I ask the exact same question as everyone else, I don't have an edge. I'm just doing the same thing. So you need some kind of insight and data. I mean, you can say that we're that company to provide it for you, but genuinely you do actually need some kind of information that's the edge to basically help you improve and iterate faster, because things are super fast now. Like you can look at trends. Trends are, the Stanley Cups was going from like it used to be trends were like months or years, and now it's like weeks, right? So you need to really understand and make decisions very quickly, and you need information to make the decisions. So you really need the data to kind of go on about that. The second thing, which is kind of the other line of our business now, is like, how do you use these AI tools to basically interact with people, right? So, there's a lot of people doing, the vibe coding is a term that kind of gets thrown around. So what vibe coding is like I use Claude or Google or whatever, and I basically code something and it creates something, right? That's really great. Like I create a website, I create an app, I do all this other stuff. And that's cool. That's really great. You should do experimentation, as we talked about earlier. I think the problem is for a lot of companies, and there's a new one called like OpenClaw, which is kind of like autonomous AI agent, which means like another level of technicality of all this, right? Is like really when you think of normal AI, it's like I do something. So it's like I talk to Grok, I talk to ChatGPT, I ask it a question, write me an email, right? I tell it the prompt, I type it in, it then gives me the prompt. I copy it, and then I find the people I need to send to an email, right? What OpenClaw and autonomous AI does is like, I say, write an email to my colleagues. It goes to my calendar. It then, writes it for me, and it sends it for me. I don't have to do anything, right? The problem is with a lot of these tools is like, they're very prone to data leaks. They're very prone, because you basically give the AI autonomy, right? It can do a lot of things. It can delete everything. It can expose your information. It can like make a lot of mistakes. It can blow up your brand. Like it can literally.
Have control
you have no control, right? So and the problem is all of these AI bots, they're siloed. So what that means in practice is if I create one and you create one, they don't talk to each other. And what that means is if like let's look at it in a very simple way to describe it, right? We both have our internal AI bot, right? And I say, send an email for me, right? Or buy me a plane ticket. So it goes to this website and it says, oh, this website doesn't work. And then it comes back to me, and then it goes to this website and this website works, right? If you have a bot that's exactly the same as mine, you'll make the exact same mistake, right? Because our bots aren't talking. So what we've done is that we built a layer of intelligence on top to say, it learns that from my bot that I would just go to this website directly, and your bot just directly goes there. And then we're able to mask your data, meaning there's no chance of data leakage. There's no chance of like, someone gets hijacked, your bot gets hijacked, and then it destroys your whole organization, right? You need to have a layer of like enterprise safety. So while it's good, going back to the main thing, like why it's good to experiment, definitely try. I'm not trying to be a Luddite and say don't use the tools, like definitely use it. You do have to be quite careful with everything. Like you can't just imagine like why companies use us, right? It's not necessarily, yes, the tech is interesting and everything else, but it's really like you have to be very safe. It's vetted, it's secure, it's been tested by other organizations. We can guarantee that if it goes down, someone will fix it immediately.
But how can you make sure when you use certain technology, like as, I don't know, small business owners, how can they make sure it's safe?
Yeah. I think this is the thing that kind of goes back to, it's a bit silly, but actually we go back to the philosophical thing of like what makes us human. It's actually social proof and social validation, right? If I try something out myself and it's never been tested, do you know if it's going to be good? And versus like this company, I mean, it's not the only measure, right? But if a company is used by a listed company, if it's used by a bank, if it like the chances of the mistakes are a lot lower, which is why, we've done government contracts with like, the Hong Kong government before. And the first time we did it, it was very rigorous. It was like months and months of just like explaining stuff. And the second government contract we had, they're like, okay, have you guys had a government contract before? We're like, yeah, we worked with this organization. And they're like, okay, well, yeah. They're like, okay, well, if anything blows up, I could say that that's for, you know what I mean? So you want to make sure that the person you're doing with has done it before. And I think that's also why they say like second-time entrepreneurs tend to be a bit more successful. It's not because they have some intelligence that, the first-time entrepreneur doesn't have. It's like,
they tried things out.
Well, you know what happens when you have no money and you can't make payroll, right? You've gone through it before and then you're like, well, I can get over this hump. And then it makes it a bit easier for you to go through it versus when you're going through it the first time, you kind of are like, well, I'm not getting any responses. I mean, like any entrepreneur will know this.
Yeah.
Like, first time you start a company, like
everything's new.
And then like, things aren't working out and you're like, well, why aren't things working out? Versus like, and then you spiral from the stress. Whereas like if you've done it before, okay, things aren't working out, but I know I need to do A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And I can, A's not working right now, but then I can do B, and then maybe I should try F. So you can kind of negotiate certain things a little bit better.
Yeah. This brings us to the last question already. So this is the signature question of the podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to the founder, the nerd, but also the founder.
Okay.
So throughout your experience as a founder, what lessons have you learned that you would like to share with fellow business owners listening to us?
So this is actually, I talked to you before, this is a question I actually thought about a lot, and I have two answers, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So the first answer is more of a kind of practical thing. It's really, I mean, again, it's not, but you really do need data. You really need information. You really need to make decisions with some conviction, because if you just go on your gut, if you just read something online, if you're just making a decision randomly and going like you will fail. I think like you can eventually, you learn fast and you can basically, but like the reality is the speed of updates are so fast, right? Like for example, like there's a bunch of startups that raised in the US and they went in and then OpenCloud copied them in like 3 months and then the business is dead, right? Like you can launch a soda product and then 5 weeks later another guy launches a soda product and they got a different flavor type and turns out the flavor type that they answered is better than your flavor type, so you go to business, right? So you really can't just like, hey, I'll figure it out. Like you really need to know what you're doing before you do it, and you need to fail fast, right? Like and you need to ideally not even fail, like you basically test
or bounce back fast.
Yes, bounce back fast and test, right? So like usually there's a fail fast philosophy, but I would say try not to even fail. Test everything out before with simulations or data, wherever you can, and then try, because then the chance of you failing is not a 0 and 1.
You will fail anyway.
You will fail, but then you'll be able to screen out the 80% of things that don't work, and this 20% thing didn't work, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, if I adjust this, then I can have it be successful. So I think that's something that is very useful from a practical sense. Yeah, data. What else is, I guess it's like kind of two parts. It's like more of a personal thing. It's like, one is to practice endless gratitude. And the second is like, it takes a village. And what I mean by that is like, there's this myth of entrepreneurship, right? And I think you look at like, Steve Jobs, you look at like, oh, he's just created everything. And I will be great like that. I'll make decisions, and it's like, you know, it really takes a village. It really takes a village. It's your co-founders, it's your friends, it's your parents, it's your customers, it's your investors, it's everyone. I mean, to be honest, like people ask like who's the most important. Like actually, it's my wife. My wife is the most, and it's because like it really is a lot for a partner to take this, right? And also like it's not an easy thing. So you have to practice gratitude for everyone in your life to be like, hey, you're letting me try this objectively insane thing, right? Because to be an entrepreneur, you're basically saying, I know 9 other people failed, but I'm going to be the one to succeed, and then support you, you know, emotionally, you know, help out with other things like that. You need and that's really important, and just you have to be grateful for them, because sometimes, you know, your friends, your family, your partner, you know, coworkers, they're not going to understand, and that's okay. You just have to be grateful that they're at least trying to understand you, and then just be grateful.
Just support you.
Exactly. Like you just need to be grateful. Like, and at the end of the day, you have your health. Be grateful for that, because a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah, I agree. Great way to end this conversation. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was really a pleasure.
I hope for the listeners it was interesting. They understand more about all this world that can be, you know, misunderstood by, you know, non-tech people. I think it was super interesting and understandable and a bit philosophical. So I like it.
I love it.
So thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and you're a great host, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.